What up, YouTube massive? I'm literally back from Turkey. Let's get right into it. So the first thing I'm going to speak upon is the talk around the Eternals movie. And then secondly, after that, I'm going to basically speak upon what I think the story might be for the Eternals movie. And it's going to be basically pulling from the source material, which is this is the first run of the Eternals comic book written and illustrated by the man himself, of course, R.I.P. Jack Kirby. You can buy this in your local comic book shops. I've been reading the reviews and I've been seeing what Rotten Tomatoes has given, of course, the Eternals being 63%, the lowest so-called, I believe, rated Marvel movie. I've seen, again, the reviews. People are saying it's good, some saying it's bad, some saying it's bad, some people are saying it's really good. It's basically, it has mixed reviews. Now, this is the thing for me, when you take away Rotten Tomatoes or tomatoes, when you take away the reviews and whatnot, you have to look at it like this in regards to this movie. This movie is a risk taker. Risk taker, being a risk taker like Doctor Strange is a risk taker. Guardians of the Galaxy is a risk taker. Captain Marvel is a risk taker. The Eternals basically is a risk taker, meaning Marvel are giving you characters that you really haven't heard of unless you've actually been reading the comics from back in the day. Like, nobody knows about the Eternals unless you've actually read a Eternal comic book. So what I'm trying to say is this movie is a risk taker. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? We're going to pretty much see when the movie drops November the 5th. Rotten Tomatoes said the Joker was a poor movie, but when the people went to watch it, they loved it. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Eternals movie because, as my friend, shout out to a man like Howard, he said to me, "Are you going to watch it?" And I'm like, yeah. And the reason I'm going to watch it is because regardless if you think the movie is good, bad, fantastic, garbage, whatever it might be, it continues the story from the past 11 years. Meaning the first Marvel movies were basically bracing us for the Avengers to assemble. After the post-credit scene for Avengers Assemble, what did we see? We saw basically the post-credit scene for Thanos. So people were like, cool, automatically Infinity War. They gave us Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and now basically the Eternals basically continues from that story. Why? Because the Eternals pretty much have been on this planet for a very, very long time. And I'm going to go into that after I finish my train of thought on the whole aspect of, the madness that's kicked off around social media. It's Marvel's lowest movie. I'm like, okay, cool, fine. For me, so far, the weakest Marvel movies have been Black Widow and Captain Marvel, the two weakest movies so far. So in regards to, of course, the Eternals, you're not getting the Avengers, you're not getting Captain America, you're not getting an Iron Man, you're not getting Thor, it's not the Black Panther, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman, you're not getting any of these characters. You're getting characters that you've never heard of before. But for me, I really want to see why this movie is so-called bad, or why it's getting mixed reviews. I really want to see what it's really all about. It's 2 hours and 35 minutes. For me, as long as I walk in there and the movie is, and I'm having fun, as in time flies by when you have fun and it just ends. Just like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was literally over 2 hours and it felt like it was a 60-minute video because, or 60-minute movie, because I was having so much fun consuming and watching, of course, the movie. So that's my take pretty much on the Eternals. There's mixed reviews left, right, and center. 63%. I guess what Rotten Tomatoes have given it, but it'll be quite interesting to see what the fans give it, because it's not about the critics. It's about basically the fans to a degree. Am I saying this movie is not going to be poor and bad? Who knows? It could be a bad movie. It could be a good movie. But when like I said, bringing back the Joker again, the Joker movie was dope. And they gave it, I believe, a low score. But if it is Marvel's lowest movie, heck, it's Marvel's lowest movie. They've had a 11-year run with dope movies, 100%. So if this is going to be Marvel's first epic film, it is what it is. If it's going to be Marvel's first okayish movie, it is what it is. If it's going to be Marvel's first dope, fantastic movie, it is what it is. But I'm excited to watch this movie because they're giving me characters that I didn't know about until the movie dropped. I was like, well, Marvel have the Eternals? And I Googled it and checked it out. And the reason I was so interested in the Eternals is because Jack Kirby is one of my favorite artists. So when I heard he basically illustrated and illustrated and basically writ the Eternals, I was like, I'm in. And that's pretty much me. So that's my thoughts. I always go into the movies with an open mind, apart from when it's obviously watching a DC movie, because obviously the DC movies have been really, really poor and bad. They recently have tried to take things up and get it to par on a balanced level, but you know, I don't get excited for a DC movie. A Marvel movie, regardless if you tell me it's good, garbage, bad, I get excited because I know what to expect. 100%. When that Marvel intro comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get gassed. So anyways, that's my thoughts pretty much on the Eternals movie. And yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. Characters that we've never heard of before are going to be in the MCU. How is that going to impact the MCU? How is that going to impact you? Because we all know basically when you have new characters, you're like, I don't know. And then you grow to like them, just like people have grown to like Shang-Chi. A very likable character within literally, of course, the MCU. And I look forward to Shang-Chi too. If you have not watched Shang-Chi, go and watch it. With that being said, November the 5th, Marvel's Eternals dropped. Get your tickets, watch it, and let me know basically what you think of the movie in the comments down below. Me personally, I can't watch the movie because I have to quarantine for 10 days, so I have to wait until November the 7th. I have to avoid spoilers, which sucks, but it is what it is. So this is my take basically on what I think the Eternal storyline is going to be about. If you don't want to get spoiled, or you think this will be a spoiler to you personally, please don't watch this video. Watch the movie basically, and then come back, and then you can watch the rest of this video. But initially, it's not a spoiler. It's just, actually, it could be a spoiler because initially I'll be telling you what potentially could happen in the comics. So let's give you a quick backstory of the Eternals origin story before we actually go into what I think it's going to be about in regards to what it says here in the comics. So the Celestials came down to Earth millions and millions of years ago. They experimented basically on monkeys. From the monkeys, they created 3 races. The Deviants, which are based upon destruction, they're just bad. They're just bad. The humans, and of course us, and of course the Eternals, which are pretty much godlike and of course nature. That is the storyline of basically of the Eternals, and it's in one panel, one page in the book. Amazing, right? Now, what happens in the comics is the Deviants want to pretty much kick off a war and I guess take over the planet. So what do? They start beef, basically. They start a war with the humans. They start fighting, and then the Eternals come in. So what happens is the Deviants make out like they're the devil, or they're the devil, and the Celestials are pretty much devils or gods that are coming to destroy them. So what they want to do is pretty much they want the humans to fight the Celestials. So there'll be anarchy, destruction, war, and bloodshed, and then eventually they come and they take over the planet. And that's pretty much what is in the comics to a degree. So I'm thinking, could that potentially happen? Yeah, it could do, but I'm like, it might not happen or 99% it might not happen, because basically Marvel never stick to the script within the comics. Because if you stick to the comics basically 100%, there's no point in watching the movie, because you're gonna know what happens basically every step of the way. And of course, Marvel, who are owned by Disney, want to make money. They have investors pouring money into this company, so they want to basically keep the fans guessing, which means they change the storyline up. And they pour in more money, because as much as I love comic books, I couldn't really, to watch a movie that's 100% to the comics, it's like, okay, you just know what's going to happen. There'll be no point in watching the movie. So that's what I think. That was my theory, or what I think potentially happened in the movie, or they can pull from that source material and of course mix it up with the MCU. Now, what makes this movie even more interesting is the fact that when you look at it, it's like a reboot to the Marvel Universe. The Avengers, you had the the Captain America movies, Thor, Iron Man, that led up to the Avengers. And it feels like, the Eternals are pretty much the Avengers, but they're eternal because they're immortal. So could they be giving birth to a new team that will help to fight against the madness within the MCU? Who knows? It's gonna be quite interesting. It's like they're rebooting the MCU and pushing it forward with new characters. And of course, the reason I'm so excited about this movie is because also of the post-credit scenes. So of course, Avengers Assemble, basically at the end of the post-credit scene, we saw Thanos. And like I said previously, everyone said, cool, Infinity War. I think this will be the movie that introduces the new villain, or gives you a hint of who this baddie or villain, or what is going to come forth within, of course, the MCU. We basically got a glimpse of it, I guess, at the end of Shang-Chi, when we got in the post-credit scene, I guess, information on the 10 rings, which was quite interesting. Could that be the movie that, seeds a new villain? Who knows? But I'm thinking the Eternals will be the movie that seeds pretty much a new villain, or a current villain, because they've been around basically forever. They're eternal. They're the first ones on the planet, and they can't interfere basically with what's happening on Earth, apart from when the deviants actually come about. And that is pretty much interesting. They've pretty much recorded everything within themselves. They've observed. They're pretty much like the Watcher in a way. They can see, but they don't interfere. But of course, we all know in the comics, the Watcher did interfere. And he actually died. If you want to know more about that, check out Original Sin by Marvel Comics. The Death of the Watcher, it's a must read. So, going back to the Eternals, if you like it or not as a movie, it's going to be the movie that pans and really sets the MCU forward. Shang-Chi was pretty much the first movie to really push the MCU forward. Yeah, Black Widow, that was before. And of course, we saw the post-credit scene with Natasha's sister. Shang-Chi sort of went another direction, making it more galactical, which was pretty cool. And I think it's going to feed literally onto, of course, the Eternals. So I 100% do not know what to expect with the Eternals movie. Period. 100%. Like I said, all I know is what I've read halfway through from the source material from this particular comic. So I'm in the dark as much as you beautiful people are. But overall, I'm excited to see 11 years of Marvel history being continued through 2 hours and 30 minutes being, of course, the Eternal movie. And I'm excited, I'm pumped, and it'll be quite interesting to see how characters who are immortal deal with life, deal with the deviants, deal with the Celestials, because we all know the Celestials, they're here to judge the Earth. And if the Earth doesn't pass the test, pow, the Earth gets taken out, gets destroyed. Quite interesting, quite dope. I'm going to read more of this when I possibly can. Again, this is volume 1 of the Eternals, and it collects volume 1 and volume 2, £33.50. But yeah, this will be the source material that Marvel pulled from the movie, and of course, literally the current Eternals comic book. And I forgot basically who's actually writing the book. I do apologize, but it'll be pulling from that source material and this. And the reason they do this is because they'll get the source material from this to keep people like me happy. So when we go into the movies, we know what we're actually seeing. And then the new comics incorporate a new generation. When the generation evolves, when things move forward in society and the world, in the real world, Marvel adapt and they basically base their comics based upon the culture or the movement within that particular energy of what's happening within the world. So they're getting the old school peeps, the new school peeps, fusing it together. And of course, they're going to add essences of the MCU to mix it all up and give it to you in 2 hours and 35 minutes. That's my thoughts, literally my complete thoughts on the Eternal. I don't know what to expect, but from reading the comics, I kind of do. But it's a movie that isn't going to follow basically what the comics have set to a degree, because like I said, when they follow it to the T, there's no point watching it. So I'm excited to see how 11 years continues within the MCU. I'm hoping this is the movie that gives us basically the so-called new villain or the new arc, what to expect, like we saw at the end post-credit scene of Avengers Assemble. I keep repeating, we saw Thanos, people like Infinity War. What's going to be next within the MCU? Could this be the movie that feeds and basically, of course, gives us the X-Men and the Fantastic Four? Meaning the Celestials created basically the Deviants, the Humans, and of course the Eternals. But could they also, in this movie, create another race, the X-Men, the X-Gene? Could somehow the Fantastic Four be in this movie somehow? Could the Silver Surfer be in this movie? And of course, the reason I say this is because, of course, you're dealing with, of course, the Celestials on the galactic level, space, and all of that. So could he be in there? Who knows? I hope this will be the movie that gives us the post-credit scene for Galactus, because I really want to see Galactus in the MCU, and I'm really excited. You know what? I'm so excited to see this come into a movie. I really am. Before I knew nothing about it, I was like, but when I read it, and I was like, oh, this is why this movie is so. It's like the pivotal point. It's like the essence of the MCU, because they're going back thousands of years before all of your MCU characters were even born. The Eternals were there. They saw so much throughout the whole world, and they're pretty much the gatekeepers of keeping peace and balance. Just like Avatar, the Last Airbender, he keeps balance. So they're here to keep the balance, and they've seen so much, and they could not basically interfere. So they're here to keep the balance. And when the balance is basically disturbed with the Deviants, they have to come in check, deal with that, and also deal with the Celestials, who pretty much they can't touch, because the Celestials are pretty much their dads and mums. Like, you know, they're the guys and girls that created them. So enough of the talk on on the Eternals. But as you can see, I'm very excited and very passionate to watch this movie. I really am. It's a movie that I think will be different in all aspects from what I've seen. And it's funny, like, this movie goes back to when my friend, she's watched all of the Marvel movies, but she doesn't read comics. So when she watched Doctor Strange, she was like, she said to me, you know what? I didn't really like Doctor Strange. I said to her, why not? She goes, it's not like the other Marvel movies. And I'm like, I said to her, yeah, because Doctor Strange he's not a superhero. He's an occultist. He deals with the magical arts. He basically, Doctor Strange, let me put it this way. You have the Guardians of the Galaxy that look after space, the Avengers that look after the Earth, the Defenders that look after the streets, and you have Doctor Strange pretty much that basically deals with what goes bump in the night. And then you have the Guardians of the Multiverse that we have now seen, who deal with on a multi-dimensional multiverse level. So this is what the Eternals pretty much means to me. It's a movie that people who are used to the Marvel movies won't really grasp and really understand unless they've actually tapped into, of course, the comics. Or they may watch it and be like, you know, it's a different movie. I like it. I don't like it because it doesn't resonate with me like the previous Marvel movies. And they're 100% right, because it does not. It's a different movie, just like Doctor Strange was different, just like the Black Panther was a different movie. Every Marvel movie so far, well, like Doctor Strange, the Black Panther, they all had different tones and energy because they're different characters. So the fact that Marvel, to end this beautiful video, the fact that Marvel are giving us pretty much this is to give you something different and to change things up within the MCU. I mean, how many more Avenger movies could we actually want? 100%. Give me as many Avenger movies as you want, Marvel. 5, 6, 10, I don't care. I'll watch all of them. But it's nice to come out of the structure and do something new. And this is why DC annoy me to a degree, because it's always Batman or Superman. You know, so many characters they haven't tapped into, and Marvel are doing it. So regardless if you like the movie or not, you know, you have to really say they've done something different and given you a different movie, a different vibe, different energy. And of course, that's my thoughts on the Eternals. Of course, what are your thoughts? Drop your comments down below. Click like, share, follow, all of that good stuff. And before I end this video, thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you for consuming my YouTube shorts. I've been loving it. Dope, fun. I've been loving the comments, the engagement, just the energy. And thank you so much to all of you, to all of my current and new subscribers for actually consuming my YouTube videos and for subscribing. Thank you for joining me on my daily journey. And I'm going to catch you beautiful people in a bit with some more content. I'm going to finish reading this off. And yeah, I'm gonna also upload my vlog that I shot in Turkey and just make it into a big juicy vlog. With that being said, click like, share, follow, subscribe, And drop me your comments down below on what you think of the Eternals. And of course, the last question is, are you going to grab this? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have, good for you. If you haven't, definitely grab it. And yeah, I'll see all of you basically in a bit. Peace out. And thank you for consuming 20 minutes or 90 minutes of my beautiful face and voice.